Hi everyone, this is Veronica. Today we are going to talk about Project WASCL, that is WASCL, which means West African Science Service Center on Climate Change and Adapted Land Use. So this is all about climate change, that how we can improve the Western African region that is having dire consequences because of climatic change. So we'll discuss in detail about this project. This is basically to combat climate change. That is how we can improve the livelihoods of the people living there. So in this way, we can avoid migration rather than training. We can avoid migration by training people about climate change. Now this is a channel StudyIQ. If you're preparing for any government exam, our pen drive and tablet courses are also available. Here you can find 100% coverage of UPSC vast syllabus. It has been prepared by top faculties. Now you can buy this course at Rs 625 per month only. You can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook because I feel together we can make huge difference. Now in what context today we are studying this? See, Project WASCL, that is West Africa Science Service Center on Climate Change and Adapted Land. It is basically a regional climate change project and the region is West Africa. Now tell me in the comment box which is the West African region, how many countries are there. Now it is being sponsored by Germany to combat climate change in West Africa. So you should know this whole project is sponsored by Germany. Why it is in news? Because recently the German research minister pledged to give $27.6 million in additional support to this regional project. So now, as I asked you, which is the West African region? So you can see here, this is the African continent and this is the West African region. So let's see the countries who are part of this. See, West Africa is the westernmost region of Africa. So the United Nations define Western Africa as 16 countries of Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Mali, then Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone and Togo. And there are 3-4 more countries. So these are the main. And as well as there are some United Kingdom overseas territory of St. Helena also and 2 more. So the population of West Africa is estimated about 362 million. So now you are clear about this region in Africa. This is the Western African region. Right? So here the project WASCL will be implemented in these countries, in this region. So now talking about the project. So what data does the project collect? See, data is very important when you want to start a project because this gives you insight in what path has to be followed. So the WASCL database is a foundation on which the research can be based upon. So this data helps researchers find out how high the temperature was 5 years ago in a particular region, the intensity of solar radiation and the condition of the ground, and many other parameters will be included which can also be measured, because that is how you can set up the base that in which direction you have to go. So talking about the condition, what conditions are becoming more extreme. So only with knowledge of exactly what climate conditions prevail, preparations can be made of extreme weather conditions. So among other things, WASCL is also working more precise rain forecast for the farmers. So one aspect of this project is that they want to forecast rains because this will improve the livelihood of the farmers in the African region, because when you can tell them about rain, it can give them a perfect idea about the crops they are growing. So it is also working on to find out how much more water will be needed when the climate warms up by 2 degrees, because in whole of the world right now water crisis is going on. There are many water stressed countries in African regions also. So talking about water, it will also give them insights about the future scope of water. Then with their relatively, basically African countries, they have very weak economies. So with their relatively weak economies, African countries hardly contribute to the climate change. So this is true. Then who contributes to the climate change? Obviously the most of it is contributed by the developed nations. They have all kind of industries, factories. They are contributing to the greenhouse gases. They are contributing to the air pollution and all kind of pollutions. And then Who has to bear all the consequences? These poor countries, underdeveloped countries and African regions who hardly contribute to climate change. Now, however, in African region we have seen heat, drought, floods. In short, the consequences of climate change are likely to hit the continent hard. So that is why now we are worried about this country, the people living there, how they will bear the consequences. That is why studying the climate change and the consequences over the continent is very important, which will be done under the Vaskal project, and proper measures and precautions will be taken up. Now, who are the climatic doctors? Who are the climate doctors in action? So see, African countries already suffer from extreme climate conditions and are poorly prepared for the consequences of the climate change. So this is why the project includes training of the young scientists. Here youth will be trained, young scientists will be made, 10 doctoral programs like PhD programs and 2 masters programs have been introduced in several West African universities. So these programs will be introduced under Project Vaskal in the existing universities. They already have 250 experts in climate change and water supply, in adapted land use or climate change security. So these experts now work across West Africa to prepare political and economic players for climate change, because they know that climate change has to happen. So these experts will guide the people, will guide the government, will guide the state authorities and aware the people about the climate change and the steps to be taken up. Now, how is training better than migration? Because see, whenever there are dire consequences like there is drought, there is too much heat, there are climatic problems, what people do? They migrate to other countries and there is pressure on the resources of that country, and people, usually these countries don't welcome this kind of migration. So that is why training is more important than migration. The trained climate experts, they can bring a wealth of knowledge and they are highly looked upon people. So the research minister of these regions, they also likes to boost vocational training in the field of climate protection in West Africa in the future. So the ministers and the government here is also saying that the practical side must come directly from industry so that the young people are able to connect, because usually what happens, whatever we read in the books, it is hardly applied in our real life. So that is why practical knowledge directly from the industry is very important for the youth, so they can directly connect themselves to such kind of knowledge and implement these processes in their daily life. So these things would speed up development in Africa, and pressure is not created for a new wave of migration. So, but there is some kind of fundamental criticism to this Project Vaskal also, because as it is sponsored by the country Germany. However, this is very good for the Western Africa, but there are certain things that Germany has to look upon. See, the German federal government hasn't understood the drastic nature of the climatic crisis, because Germany's carbon dioxide emissions are contributing to the sub-Saharan Africans' drought and the climate change to slower economic growth. So they have to start cleaning up their own act, phase out coal. So with that, Germany would really help the world and fight against the climate change. So many people are saying, why you're sponsoring the other countries? Why don't you start from your own country? So that is a criticism, but however, this is good. Like if they know, Germany realizes this, that they're contributing to CO2 emissions, which is having consequences in the sub-Saharan African drought and African region. So they are helping the Western African region also to come out of it. So that is, however, an appreciable step, but still Germany they should look up at their own policies and try to control their own emissions, which are contributing towards climate change also. So this is all about this Vaskal project. If you have any queries, you can contact me on email, Instagram, Facebook. Thank you.